From the Massachusetts Broadcasters Station of the Year, this is Western Mass News at 6 p.m.
After a ransomware attack canceled the first day of school for students in one Connecticut town, the Springfield School District is working to make sure that doesn't happen here. Good Tuesday evening, everyone. Welcome to Western Mass News at 6. I'm Chris Pisano.
And I'm Beth Ward. Western Mass News reporter Sarah Grinelli getting answers on how ransomware can get inside of a computer and potentially cause some big problems for schools. Sarah joins us live in Springfield with more. Sarah?
Beth, Chris, tech experts we spoke with say it's as simple as opening up an email and then a PDF. Now, Springfield city officials are working to make sure this doesn't happen here in Springfield. Hartford Public Schools in Connecticut were forced to cancel the first day of school on Tuesday. This after school officials discovered a ransomware attack. That's a software that denies access to files unless a ransom is paid, shutting down the district's computer system, a major problem as online technology is critical to learning during the pandemic. More than 200 of the 300 servers were impacted. During his weekly briefing, Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno says the city is making sure that doesn't happen here.
Hartford Public School System, their computer system was attacked. We're already taking proactive measures in the Springfield Public School System to not have that happen here.
In November of 2019, Chicopee Public Schools were hit with a ransomware attack that demanded the school district pay up $300,000 to get their files back. Daniel Warwick, the Springfield school superintendent, says the threat of a cyber attack is always there.
You know, we have audits done and we put protections in place, not to say we're immune from a possible problem, but we have put a lot of systems in place to protect us, and it's something we're always vigilant on.
A big question is how does a ransomware get inside a computer system? Western Mass News went to local tech expert Stan Prager for answers.
An attachment is typically sent in an email, and somebody opens that attachment. It's usually like a PDF attachment or something of that nature. It then releases malware into the computer, and it's not detectable. It has to encrypt all your files on your computer so that you can't open them.
He says there is no cookie-cutter approach to protecting a school district from a ransomware attack, but a good way is to have a computer system backed up.
Okay, make sure you've got a good, strong IT department protecting you. Secondly, make sure you have a good backup process in place that includes redundancy. In other words, make sure you've got multiple levels of backups. So if your current files become encrypted and then your backups become encrypted, you have another backup to go to.
Students in Hartford are expected to go back to school tomorrow, and now the FBI is investigating. As for Springfield, students don't go back until next week. Live in Springfield, I'm Sarah Grinelli for Western Mass News.
Sarah, thank you. Western Mass News is your school authority as school districts prepare to open during the COVID-19 pandemic. The role of school nurses is expected to expand.
Now, even if a district is opening remotely or in a hybrid fashion, school nurses will be expected to guide students and parents through the ins and outs of the pandemic.
Western Mass News reporter Audrey Russo spoke with one local school nurse, sounding the alarm about the possibility of a burdensome workload.
She joins us now live in Springfield with more. Audrey?
This nurse I spoke with says she expects to have to contact trace students' coronavirus symptoms, communicate with local boards of health, communicate with parents, maintain and update vaccine records thanks to the new state mandate for the flu vaccine. All of this in addition to the normal work they do in a non-pandemic year. Patricia Como was a school nurse in the Methuen School District and a spokesperson for the Massachusetts Nurses Association. She asked me to conduct this interview on her day off because she said she's so busy at school, she wasn't sure she'd even have 5 minutes free.
If there's any questions, teachers or parents or, anybody, who may have been in contact with the case, are calling me looking for guidance.
Her district hasn't even begun instructing kids yet, but Como says she's been inundated with phone calls from parents asking for more information, not just about COVID-19, but also on the flu vaccine mandate. She says once school is in session, in her district's hybrid plan, she expects symptoms to appear.
Now you're adding COVID, contact tracing and work and fielding phone calls. and everything to that mix.
Como says her district is hiring licensed practical nurses to help with extra work, but she says not every district is that lucky.
Even before the world of COVID, there's been a shortage of school nurses. The recommended ratio of school nurse to student is 1 to 500. And if you add special education students in there, meaning if there are any special ed kids in the building, the ratio is 1 to 250.
Western Mass News spoke with Springfield school spokesperson Azel Kavan. Based on enrollment statistics found on their website, the school has a 1 nurse to 448 student ratio. She says their 58 nurses are planning for remote visits with students once the academic year begins.
They will be continuing in that work, and then they will also be doing check-ins with students, virtually, because we have many students in our school district who receive medications daily.
Kavan says she expects the nurses' workload will increase when students return to school and that they're preparing for every possible scenario.
There's already been training and there's already been conversation going on about if a student is identified as having an onset of COVID-like symptoms in school, how the nurse would react to that.
One concern Como says she has for districts across the state this year is also finding substitute nurses. If a regular school nurse gets sick, she says it's already difficult enough to try to find a licensed nurse who's ready to work on such short notice. Reporting live in Springfield, Audrey Russo for Western Mass News.
Audrey, thank you. And Western Mass News is your school authority. If you have questions or concerns as schools prepare to open back up, we're getting you answers. You can call us with those questions at 413-846-0200 or email us schoolauthority@westernmassnews.com.
Here's a look at today's numbers of COVID-19 cases. So far, the state reporting 168 new cases for a total number of 121,214. And there were also 8 more deaths today. The statewide death toll now stands at 8,933.
And for more coverage on the coronavirus emergency as it unfolds, log on to our free Western Mass News streaming app.
A vote's expected in just a few hours by the Agawam City Council on the town's high school nickname and school colors.
Well, some are citing racial concerns and created a petition to have them changed. Western Mass News reporter Lindsay Kane is live in Agawam with more on that. Lindsay?
Chris and Beth, the school's nicknamed the Brownies, and their brown and orange colors are up for debate tonight. Councilor George Bitsis tells Western Mass News that the nickname and colors are a symbol of pride, which is why he's calling for a resolution tonight.
They think there's some kind of racist, which is unbelievable. It is not racist at all. It is nothing to be racist. I wouldn't do anything if it was racist. So I hope the council will support it.
He says the name and colors were never meant to be disrespectful, saying it's believed they originate from a former football coach. But a petition was created to have the name and mascot changed. It now has almost 1,500 signatures. The vote tonight is just on the nickname and the colors. Bitsis says he's in support of keeping the logo and Native American head as well, but says that is a separate entity that may be brought up in the future. That meeting is set to begin at 7 o'clock. Now, coming up later on Western Mass News, we hear from the Massachusetts Commissioner of Indian Affairs, as well as what happens with this expected vote. Live in Agawam, Lindsay Kane, Western Mass News.
Lindsay, thank you for that live report. New at 6, the 99 restaurant location at the Eastfield Mall will be closing its doors. The mall's manager, Dave Thompson, tells Western Mass News the 99 gave their notice and they don't believe they will have any trouble filling that location. As for the recent closure of Cinemark at the Eastfield Mall, Thompson says they're working with 2 possible cinema companies to take over the old theater. The manager also tells us that the mall is at 90% occupancy as far as tenants go.
We do have plenty of sunshine out there for the evening. It is warm, though. We're at 84 degrees right now in Springfield. As we look out from our Monarch Skycam, you can see that bright sunshine getting a little bit lower on the horizon, so temperatures will start to drop, but dew points will likely rise a little bit. Right now, it's lower 60s, which isn't terribly humid, but you are feeling a little bit muggy out there. Some upper 70s now occurring in Cummington and Pittsfield, but most of us are still hanging on to those lower and middle 80s out there this evening. And dew points are going to stay fairly steady. I think they're going to linger in those lower to mid 60s for another 24 hours or so, and then they're going to start to rise as we head into the day Thursday. Right now, we do have plenty of sunshine like we just saw in the Skycam. There are just a few fair weather clouds here and there. We're watching this bank of cloud cover off the Atlantic here, and this is going to start moving its way back north overnight tonight. So cloud cover will eventually increase, but the evening's looking good for anything outdoors. We've got mostly sunny to mostly clear skies. After the sun goes down, temperatures will start dropping into the 60s closer to midnight. And tomorrow morning, another cloudy and muggy start. We'll have a little bit of fog around, but it's mostly just a lot of clouds in place that will start breaking up, and we'll go back to partly cloudy conditions in the afternoon. Getting back into those lower and middle 80s for your Wednesday, and then for Thursday, not quite as warm, but much more humid with a chance for a little rain. We'll take a closer look at that forecast in just a few minutes. Back to you.
All right, sounds good, Jana. Thank you. We have a health alert for you at this hour. A new study on vaping shows that it continues to be used more and more by adults and students. According to researchers at Johns Hopkins University, about 11 million adults used e-cigarettes in 2016, but that's jumped to nearly 14 million in just 2 years. The report also says more people were vaping on a daily basis, suggesting that more users are becoming dependent on e-cigarettes rather than merely experimenting with them. Researchers also cited previous studies on e-cigarettes marketing efforts to explain the jump.
Bearish investors dominated Wall Street today, pushing markets further into the red from last week's rut. Worries about a COVID-19 resurgence this winter, uncertainty around the presidential election, and renewed tensions with China helped fuel the sell-off. It sent the Dow down more than 600 points and cost the S&P 500 2.75%. The NASDAQ composite, though, fared the worst. It gave back more than 4%, pushing it into correction territory. That's defined as a 10% drop from its most recent peak.
Coming up on Western Mass News, we'll take you inside the newly reopened Patriots Hall of Fame.
And we'll show you how schools across Western Mass are preparing their students for a very different school year.